Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
These things under the rug because people are being affected, whether you know or you don't know. People are being affected by hold on a minute here. Somebody saying can't hear me. Okay, hold on a minute. I guess I have to fix it. Hold on a minute, everybody. Don't know why. All right, I hope you can hear me now. I hope so. Okay, I think we can hear me now. So what I was beginning to talk about, I don't know how much of you caught before I got started, but I was really just talking about, what is the nature and the foundation for protecting spiritual wellness. In our religious communities, we do have, of course, a lot of lockdown dogma about religion should be this and you should be this way or you should be that way, or women should be this way, men should be this way, women should pray here. You have that through all of religious institutions, religious communities. But what I want to talk about today is something that's becoming a lot larger. We're talking with the accessibility of social media, the internet, things like that, these groups, the chats, that we're seeing a much larger growth of incidences of spiritual abuse. And when I say spiritual abuse, I'm talking about the relationship that some of our spiritual leaders have with the community, have with their followers, have with even their board of the board of trustees, things like that, whereby the balance of spiritual wellness and goodness is not put upon the people, whereby people will cheapen in some regards religious leadership for their own personal gains, for their own nafs, for their own selfish desires, and frame political and religious community around those desires. I'm not saying this is like Trump and the deniers, but we have become, in some regards, in our religious community, deniers. We are worried more so about what something looks like as opposed to how it affects people in the community. I have a good friend. His name is Brother Danish Kassam, and he has a blog called Shakes and Sleep. I think it's Shakes and Sheep's Clothing or something like that. And he is an emerging voice, if you will, talking about spiritual abuse. A lot of times, and let me make this really, really clear. A lot of times, the idea that the religious leader or the scholar in this particular position needs to be held in a position above culpability, above responsibility, above accountability. And what that means is you create pockets of people who believe that. You create pockets of people who uphold that person, even when they're 130% wrong, We still are trying to support them and are making excuses for them to the point that we will castigate the victims, that we will flip it around and tell the victim that you are the problem, that you are the problem, that you are the scenario that created this whole thing, and that you should be discredited. We have this in this community going on, and I'm going to talk about it because, brothers and sisters, it is leading into a domino effect. We have people leaving the masjid because they believe that the religion that they have poured their heart and souls into in a time of need and crisis did not protect them. That the religious people, the religious leaders that we hold so high, they were predators. That they used religious knowledge and spirituality and fake piety to get what they want. This is a crime, a moral crime, a religious crime. This is a crime in the constitution of religious trust and availability. That you prey on the people that you're supposed to be praying for. Brothers and sisters, this is a shout out show. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we're back. So I just want to give a shout out. Thank you for Sister Reed for letting me know that the sound was not working. Sometimes that happens. It may be a loose connection. I apologize for that. There's no, I don't give any excuses for not being professional. I should have checked this beforehand. So I do appreciate you letting me know. Before we get into our topic today, let me make sure that I give some love and some shout out and some shine on the Shout Out Show family. Of course, it's Sister Reese saying hello. Shout out family. Please stay cool. Man, it's hot everywhere. Hot in Houston, hot in DC. It is hot everywhere. And if you have elders, please make sure that you're putting them in cool places with plenty of shade. And make sure they have plenty of water, because what's going on right now is a dry air. And a lot of our elders who have respiratory issues are becoming dehydrated a lot quicker. And I think this is really, really important. All right, Ree. And we got this Mama Son, better known as Mary Moss. She's saying, hello, SOS family. Enjoying the preacher. That's right. Hanging out with mom, getting it in today. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. All right. And this is my dear sister. Where you been, Sister Sonia Salahuddin Dotton? Where have you been? You've been sticking us with Bilal for just the last couple of days. Not that Bilal ain't good, but you know, the show is always better when you two are on together. I was worried that you put my man down, but I'm glad y'all in the same place today. Well, alaikum assalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good to see you in the house. Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. Altaf Rashid, what's going on, beloved? One of our day ones, man. Thank you for coming on the show. I'm glad the sound is back because we do need to talk about it. This is a day I need to be heard, for lack of a better word. This is a day I really need to be heard. So thank you so much, our Canadian envoy to the show. Good to see you on the spot, brother. We appreciate you. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Johnny L. Thomas, better known as JT, my little brother. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Shout out to Sister Yolanda, and shout out, of course, to my brothers, my nephews. They ain't small anymore. They don't even call their uncle, man. Tell them to call their uncle, man. I'm getting older. I'm getting better looking, but I'm getting older. Tell them to call their uncle. So let me get to the point, and let me give you a story that will illustrate my point. Now, this is a story in the Muslim community. Every community has these issues. They do. Every religious community has these issues. So I am several years ago, I received a video. The video was a friend of mine who was an imam. I knew him. His name is Sheikh Nick, and he was a prominent imam at one of the big mosques in the Houston area, Houston Spring area in the suburbs. The video was him at Juma prayer, Friday prayers, literally laying out the community that he served. And upon review of the video, the problem at this particular mosque was they had a pedophile in their midst. They had a pedophile in their midst, a known pedophile. People knew he was a pedophile. For Brother Nick, for Sheikh Nick, it was problematic because the pedophile was still allowed to be amongst children. That he had some type of gravity, some type of stature, a gravitas, whereby people knew who this person was, what he was doing, what he was capable of. But the action is what infuriated Sheikh Nick. The action was that instead of this person being turned over to the police for the crimes and injustice and cruelty that they had inflicted on the children of that community, the powers that be decided to take this person and send him back abroad, send him to Pakistan. In Sheikh Nick's case, as an imam, as a spiritual leader, he was outraged. He was upset. He was livid. He literally said, had I known that this man was in our midst and doing these things, I would come off the minbar and thrash him with my own hands. That I would take the matter into my own hands to protect my children, your children. This is the extent of what I would do. And when I saw that video, I called Sheikh Nick. I rang him up, understanding the gravity of what he had done in an open forum. And I said, Nick, are you all right? And in our conversation, he said, thank you for calling me. I said, why? He said, because no one else is talking to him. He subsequently had been quarantined from the community for what he said. And no one was talking to him. And he was in a position whereby the board was determining his salary, paying his bills, his health insurance, his mortgage. So he was in a position of limbo, and he was held in a financial constraint. And he was heartbroken because no one was talking to him. He was ostracized for speaking on the damages of a pedophile in their midst. Now we have this going on in our madrasas, in some of our schools. We have this going on. And the sadness of it is you have people who are genuinely golden, seeking pathways to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking pathways to God, trying to get closer and better and more consistent in their religion, and they run across people who are profiteers, who are predatory, who lend them spiritual guidance because they're grooming them. Now, if you don't know the term grooming, that's not a good term. That's what pedophiles do to young kids. They groom young kids so that when the act takes place, the child is groomed and they think that this thing is normal. We need to speak about the spiritual grooming that's going on here under the quote-unquote auspices of religious knowledge and people who are seekers of knowledge. It can't be one way that this person can provide all his knowledge and still be able to have negative, unacceptable behavior. And this is even more so. We're not even talking about sexual stuff. We're talking about how people treat other people. under the auspices of being a spiritual leader. Mental cruelty, verbal abuse, spiritual abuse. That you crush the spirit of people who are trying to be spiritual individuals. I was watching on YouTube. Guys commenting about R. Kelly receiving a 30-year sentence. He received a 30-year sentence. Some people said they were too harsh because it was a black man. Some people say it was too light. The thing that was missed was that many of his victims he groomed in that way. That denial of basic things, the right to eat, go to the bathroom, have fellowship, frame them for the particular type of abuse that he would visit upon them. Now, I'm not saying we having a man R. Kelly or a Rabbi Kells or anything like that, but I am saying that as we get into times that are even more challenging, times that are even more difficult, as people emerge from the shadows of COVID, people are broken. And it's a different kind of broken. It is a broken whereby your faith has been tested. And even if you held on to your faith, you are holding on to your faith in the midst of a population, large portions of a population whose spirits have been broken, or worse, didn't have spirits to begin with to break. Metaphysical zombies walking around, brothers and sisters. And this may upset some folks, but we have metaphysical zombie imams who have absolutely no connection to the community that they are trying to serve. It's so much about the community serving them. I was a Christian. I grew up Christian. There's always the joke about the jackleg preacher. Anybody could be a preacher. Just God talk to me and I'm a preacher now. No seminary, school, no religious studies. It's just I always loved Martin Luther King because they could talk about where Martin Luther King learned how to be a preacher. And what he learned in that space about how to be a preacher, it spoke to the needs of folks. But I love Martin Luther King. I love MLK. But the truth is out there that MLK had a lot of dalliances under the auspices of being a reverend. Somebody's going to turn me off right now. That's fine. This is nothing new. I'm not telling you nothing new. But I'm telling you the truth that even Martin Luther King had his issues with women and the Lord. That he was tormented that way. And people knew that he engaged in spiritual abuse. That the gravitas that he had for this position as a minister, the gravitas he had as a civil rights advocate, lured people to him. And he tasted. He dabbled. It's sad. It's sad because I know of cases you will never find of in the Muslim community, in the education community, in the Christian community, that this thing is so rampant that it's scary. I saw a video and I was going to put it up, but I said, no, don't do it. I saw a video of a man. You may have seen it. A reverend, a preacher in the New York area. He was robbed for $1 million in jewelry during his religious broadcast. Hear me now. They took from him $1 million in jewelry. This is the preacher. $1 million in jewelry. This is in his possession, and he's wearing it in front of the congregation. And someone came in and he got jacked for his jewelry. When I watched this, I said, the apple's not going to fall too far from the tree. And they began to show more videos of him in his prayer closet, which was the size of a 2-bedroom house, Fendi bags on the floor, Gucci this, Fendi this, all this type of stuff, Tom Ford suits and stuff. I'm like, well, where is this money coming from? It's spiritual abuse. It's bullying. It's getting up on the pulpit. It's getting up on the minbar to tell people to give in the name of their Lord, give in the name of their God, give in the name of decency, give in the name of the poor. And those people never receive the funds. They never receive the funds. You see, I remember when the preachers and the imams, a lot of the imams, particularly in the WD Muhammad community, a lot of the imams, they are imams, but they have jobs. Because it's never going to be a thing where you're going to be an imam, particularly in our community, and it's going to give you the type of financial gain whereby it leads you to believe that you can abuse power. That power will be checked. That if you want to be a full-time imam, particularly in our community, hell, you might starve to death. But it brings into fact that there's a closeness to the people that you serve, that they see you in a different capacity, that I work, you work, and that you being the imam is a blessing, but we all understand that our efforts together are equal, have valid, they're equal, they're relevant, and moving forward, have meaning to the congregation. So listen, I'm going to take a quick break. You guys don't move. I'll be back. Stick with me here. We're talking about the dangers of spiritual bullying here on the ShOUT Show. Hey, babies. Welcome to Radio WCUC, Convenient Urgent Care, home of the smart patient. This is DJ What It Do. You know what time it is. It's the top of the hour, and the request lines are open. You know what you want to hear. I know what you want to hear. Operators are waiting.
I just got to hear don't get the COVID.
Don't get the COVID. Put your mask back on. The Delta COVID, more contagious than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get the vaccine. You know that it can keep you safe, and your people living up in your space. Don't get the COVID. You need to wash your hands. The Delta COVID is more deadly than before. Don't get the COVID. Go on and get your vaccine. You know that it can keep you from dying. Don't leave your family all alone and crying. Don't get the COVID.
We invite you to join our fight against COVID and against misinformation. It's time to listen to the doctors and trust the science.
When I think of people dying that don't have to die, it makes me sad. Now is the time to be sober. Together we can make this thing over. Let's fight the COVID. Convenient urgent care, home of the smart patient.
All right, we're back. So listen, we don't have a lot of time. You know how these shows go fairly quickly. If you or any member of your family or friend or associate find yourselves a victim of spiritual bullying, I am going to strongly suggest that you look up some of the sites on spiritual bullying. Shakes in Sheep's Clothing is a good one. They have another couple of them. I'm actually going to list them on tomorrow's show, inshallah. But I'm going to make sure you have them just as a follow-up. But understand some of the dangers of spiritual bullying, and I'm going to run these through. Number one danger of spiritual bullying is that it can damage a sincere effort to connect to your God. Number two, it can create a situation for you whereby you are receiving false, intentionally wrong spiritual information that begins a grooming process. That's number two. Number three, and I think number three is extremely important. It is to move you away from your original intention for spiritual study in the first place. We talk about Nayat, intention. It is a damager and a modifier of intention. That someone presents something to you, but the intention is to have you over here. I'm going to lead you over here verbally, but intentionally, I'm going to move you over to this space. And the other part of it is, number 4, is that spiritual bullying leads to other aspects of potential abuse. Physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse. It creates a pathway for these things. So if you're going through it, or someone else is going through it, these are some of the things you want to look for. And if you feel like a loved one is going through spiritual abuse, some of the signs are alienation, that they will alienate themselves from their families. A pedophile or person who engages in spiritual bullying or spiritual abuse has to move you away from people who give you empowerment and give you security. They give you empowerment, they give you security. They want to move you away from that. Number 2 is a real one, depression. A imbalance in the context of familiarity and comfortness with your own self. The last one is, I said alienation. I said moving away from the comfort of yourself. I think the last one is dependence. That you begin to see people develop a dependence on an imam, or develop a dependence on a reverend, or develop a dependence on a rabbi. The only difference is with spiritual bullying, they're using the word of God. They're using the Quran or the Torah or the Bible. They're using spiritual text. They're using spiritual knowledge, but it's used in a way where it's not engaging and it's not meant to empower or uplift you. Many times people will use these texts as a bludgeoning device to crash your self-esteem, to make you not want to go out and investigate these things on your own, to isolate you, because to isolate you means that I can be more effective on the evil in the narcissism that I'm going to visit upon you. So please, let's remember these things. He probably won't see it, but I'm going to send it to him. My man, Sheikh Nick, God bless you, man. I don't know how the Eagles are going to do this year, but God bless you because of a Sheikh Nick who stood up in a mosque in Texas and said that this is wrong, despite the fact that he was ostracized, that he was treated worse than the pedophile, and the fact that he's still out there trying to serve the people, trying to be a good and a blessing and a bridge to people to spiritual wellness, speaks to his character more so than the people that denied him in the first place. Let's stop this spiritual bullying, people. Can't have it. All right. So listen, that's our show today. We'll be back. Just so you guys know, time is counting down. Around this time next week, we'll be one day away from the Preacher Moss Muslim Comedy Festival being held at Union Stage in Washington, D.C. Telling everybody to get their tickets. I will make some things available on here. I'll get the information on here. Well, Satana will, inshallah. But go to Preacher Moss on IG or Preacher Moss on Facebook. It's all spread out on there. Want to give a shout out to our sponsors for that. ShOUT TV, as well as Impact Hollywood Bureau, as well as ISNA. Well, ISNA's going to be next week, but you know what I'm saying. All right, so I got to go. You guys have been amazing. Have a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.